Welcome in. All right, tonight I am going to be talking about job seeker struggles. I actually meant to have this playing this morning. Stuff happens. I didn't do it. So, rescheduling to tonight probably shifted a lot of people's thinking on if they wanted to join this or not. But I'm going to go ahead and get started with some of the things that I've been hearing from job seekers, general questions, some things I've been reading about where people that are looking for jobs are like either struggling with something or they're really questioning certain things. So I'm going to cover some of these topics. This won't be a long video. I only have 5 topics that I want to cover today. Some of them are slightly related. So I am going to start with the first one that I see a lot of people talking about. I've been getting a lot of candidate questions about this as well. And it has to do with remote work and the shift away from that. So I'm going to put this one up on the board. So let me put this in here. Change my name. So this is the question I'm going to throw up on the screen here. And it's okay. People are having concerns about remote work ending, or they don't want to continue working remotely. They want to understand better the policies that the company has in place. So here's my suggestions if you have any concerns regarding remote work, specifically if you're worried about joining a company that may not be able to accommodate remote work, or you're joining a company or considering a job where the company may be shifting from remote work to 100% in the office or something like that. So if you have any limits around this, there's a couple things that you're going to want to know. You definitely need to, before you're even really on the search and talking to companies, you need to know what you're willing to do. So are you willing to work 100% remotely only and that's it? Are you willing to work remotely 100% of the time and travel as needed? Because that's very important. A lot of companies will work with you a little more and they're a little more flexible when hearing about a candidate wanting remote work 100% of the time if they're willing to travel, if it's needed. So if they're willing to attend events, there are some folks, they work remotely, they don't really want to travel to the office very much. So know how much travel you're willing to do. The next thing is going to be understanding if you're open to hybrid work and what that really means for you. Is that being in the office once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, as needed? What does that really mean for you if you're willing to do like a 50-50 or 30-70, whatever percentage in the office versus out of the office? And then you should also know if you want to be full-time in the office, like if that's something you're okay with for the right company, for the right job. So that would be the first thing. And I would suggest talking about it with whatever company that you're pursuing. The next thing is if if you're unsure of whether the company is willing to have employees 100% working remotely, you definitely want to ask about it. Just ask about the remote work policy. This is something that a lot of candidates are asking anyway. So your recruiter, your hiring manager, whoever you're talking to about a job, they're going to anticipate this question most likely. If they're not anticipating the question, then that's just too bad. I think it's a good question to ask anyone that's interviewing you. Now, again, I go back to knowing what you're willing to do. So if they're telling you like, hey, we cannot do 100% remote work, and you know that's your limit, like you have to have a job that's 100% remote work, no flexibility really, then you want to ask that question up front, like during the first interview or introductory call you're having, just to save yourself time if you know that's what you want. So you got to know your limits. You got to know what you're looking for. The other thing is if you are in a place, because I've heard this as well, I've heard from people that actually want to move away from remote work and they want to be in an office. They're sick of working remotely. They want to go to an office. Now, you have to make sure that the company has an office where you're actually are, like where you're looking to work. So if you're, let's say I'm in Texas, right? But my company was in San Francisco. Well, I need to, I definitely would want to ask where their operations are and where their actual offices. Operations in different states or different locations can be very different than where they actually have a building in. So you need to really ask these questions to make sure realistically you're going to be able to go to an office if that's really what you want and need. Because some people, and I've talked about this on the channel, yeah, some people are like, hey, I have kids and they're running around the house. I need a place, I need to get away. Some folks are maybe like me, like maybe they're single, but they're just sick of being at home. They want to get back to some normalcy and they want to go into an office space, want to show off their outfits or whatever they want to do in an office. So just know if they have an actual office in your location. The next thing, if you're flexible with not going into an office, is another idea is to consider if they have any remote perks for you. So there are companies like Dropbox, for example, which is a tech giant. Well, not so much a giant, they're more of a startup. Have a couple investments in Dropbox. They've been really good for me. But Dropbox is a company that has added more perks for their folks that are working remotely. And this could be, maybe they offer you some type of stipend so that you can go to a facility where you can work, like a WeWork, for example. So you still get that feel that you can go into a space and work efficiently even though they don't have an office in that location. Or another idea, if that's not an option, is you can also rent out space in like your local library and things like that. Just depending on the standards there, that's another option that you can think about. The next thing is you want to ask about the future plan. So what you don't want to do is go into an office. You don't want to go into a job. They say you start, you can start the job remotely, and then 30 days later, right, they're like, oh, well, you need to come back to the office. We don't want that, right? So definitely ask about future plans. What do they see happening? Are they going to eventually go back to a 100% work environment where it's full time, you're in the office? Or is it likely that they'll move into a hybrid work environment, right? Or will they still have remote work? So definitely understand the case for you and what that will look like. Not saying you have to have that conversation very early on, but definitely if you're getting an offer for a job, you need to ask that question. You need to really understand what that looks like for you. And is your job going to be 100% remote in the future? Like, will it happen, for forever as long as things are working out right? Or is there some type of time limit on it? Like, it's fine for the first 6 months, but we expect people to start going to the office at this date. You definitely want to understand that. Now, this may change up a little bit just based off of what is happening in regards to healthcare, but generally most companies are developing a plan, or at least an idea of what expectations should be. So you definitely want to be on a know. So that was the first one. Let me look at some comments. Welcome and hello, hello. Hey, Pow Pow. How are you? Let me put this one in here as our next topic. Okay, King of Kill came in. Hello. Sharky came in here. Hello, welcome. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sharky. Mine just ended. I'm only working my security job now. Also, I'm starting my commercial cleaning business in September. Oh, you're gonna get some money, honey. Commercial cleaning, yeah, especially, that's going to continue either way because office spaces, they have to be clean whether people are there or not. And then especially as people start going back into office spaces, they have to be very stringent with their cleaning practices. So that's awesome. Congratulations, King of Kill. Let's see. Edward, welcome. You're in here listening. Love it. Okay, love it, love it. Pow Pow came in and is saying hello to everybody. Great. Okay, so that's really what I wanted to focus on with remote work generally. Oh, Ben. Oh, rice and beans. You're switching names up on me. Okay, well, welcome in, Ben. Hey, Washable Marker. I've seen you here before. I'm finally driving Uber now. Okay, good. Well, that's awesome. You can make some good money with Uber. Okay, cool. That's a nice side hustle too. So, this next question, let me see if I can find it and bring it up here. Okay, so can you kill your business actually relates to what I'm talking about next. Some people are having concerns about safety, especially depending on what type of job you're in. Here's the thing, asking about safety procedures and things, especially when it comes to not only the staff or your coworkers, your boss, your manager, whatever space you're in. If you need to go into an actual work space, whether that is a store, an office, a restaurant, whatever the case may be, you need to understand what the protocols are going to look like in regards to protecting yourself, protecting others, cleaning standards. So definitely ask, what are the cleaning standards are in the office? Are there cleaning supplies provided for you as an employee and for the rest of your coworkers? Or is that something you actually are going to be expected to provide? Little things like that is very important. Also, are the customers or clients expected to wear a mask, for example? Very important. Are you expected to wear a mask? Are you expected to go into your space? Do you need to be tested? Do you need to get a shot? All of that is very important and actually goes into some of my other points here. So just make sure you ask the questions and know exactly what your expectations are when it comes to safety versus what the company is going to provide. You don't want to be disappointed after you've already started the job and then realize, oh my gosh, they're not cleaning anything in here. So that is my tip on that topic. I'm going to throw this one in here as well because I've gotten this question. A lot of people want to understand, what does the onboarding look like? Am I going to get trained? And since I'm starting a job remotely, if that is your case, how are things going to look? Is it going to be different? Like, how am I going to interact with people? How am I going to learn? What's expected? So you definitely want to ask the question about onboarding practices. Like, what is the process? What is it generally going to look like? Now, onboarding, typically there is a general onboarding that all employees have. So this is going to be covering benefits information, general company overview, teams across, the company and the office structure and all of that is going to be onboarding that's pretty standard all employees get. However, each department will have a different plan just based off of the team needs, the manager, and all of that. So you definitely should be meeting with your manager before you're hired into a job. So that's really important, that as you're meeting with your potential manager, that you do ask them what onboarding might look like specifically for them. Like, what are they going to be, what are they going to have you doing? Is there any training that you need to do? Also, the other thing that you want to ask about with that is just to ask about expectations. What are the expectations within the first couple months of working? That is all a part of the onboarding process. Normally, companies will have 90 or 30, 60, 90 days of this onboarding process. It's not just your first day or your first week. That first couple of months is considered onboarding. You're still getting onboarded. You're still learning the company. You're still learning about your team. You're still learning the essentials. And then also you want to keep yourself accountable once you're in the job. So you want to make sure you have a plan and have a way of communicating with your manager and your team, and you're setting your work hours and ensuring that other people on your team, those that you're working with, understand your typical work hours as well. And that should actually be before you start. You should also have that conversation with your manager based on expectations. Again, especially with remote work and if you're working across time zones. So that's really important for people to understand. Hey, Jessica's going to be logging on around 9 a.m. Don't expect her to answer you at 7 a.m. So that's going to be really important. My current manager is actually really good about that. When I actually before I got started, like just understanding, like I get it, whatever you need, whatever is best for you to work. Thank you, Edward. Yes, please do hit the like button as you come in here. I really appreciate it. Let me see here before I move on to the next one. Washable Marker is saying, I'm great. Oh, you're doing great, Washable Marker. Well, lovely. I'm glad to hear that. Alrighty. So this next one, I think my last point. Let me leave this comment up, Edward. Oh, I have two more. So I have two more in here. Okay. Let me put that up here. So how can you be or stay engaged with other employees? Now, this is something that I do think you should ask about before you get started working. And the way that you would ask about it is you can just ask what type of options, what type of tools are available for you to interact with other employees. So that could be tools like Microsoft Teams, Slack, tech tools, or it could be, okay, is there an actual workplace team or somebody that works within the people group or HR group that actually proactively helps to arrange different events, virtual events, to help employees engage with each other? Are there ERG groups or employee resource groups available to employees? Some companies may not have those, and some people may not, or some companies may not have someone that actually proactively organizes different events on a regular so that employees can still interact with each other, so you can still get some company culture, even though we're not in an actual company and a lot of people are working remotely, especially, of course, when it comes to more corporate jobs. So that is what I would say as far as anyone that's just a little concerned about how they're actually going to engage with employees. The other thing I would say is just be proactive yourself within your team, or if you see folks in other teams, even though we're in this remote environment, that does not mean that people are not open to talking with other people and you getting 15 minutes or 30 minutes with someone to network with them. You should always be networking. I talk about this often, that you should be networking within your company as well as outside of your company. And you should be getting to know people. And if you know going in that there's not really going to be a team that proactively puts together events to help employees engage, well, then you can build a plan for yourself on how you're going to best communicate with your coworkers and with other teams that you may be interested in, with your manager and different things like that. Okay, and then the last one that I want to talk about is money. So we're going to talk about money. Of course, I saved that one for the end. Let me just check in here who came in. Hello, Partly Cloudy. Welcome. Thanks for the love. How are you? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing pretty well. So Ben is saying, as a general rule of thumb, I still want to call you rice and beans. As a general rule of thumb, I always ask for the max in an interview and always tell them, would you want to hire someone who truly doesn't think they are worth the max? Thought, salary range, jobs, that is. Ooh, if you're saying it like that, I would say that's a no-no. So here's my thing, and I'm going to get into that with this next comment. I think it's all about the approach that you take when you're talking about compensation and how you can actually get the best compensation for you. So we're going to talk about that in a second. So hold on to that thought, crew. Hey, I find it best to ask questions about how they are doing and adapting. See if they have questions about the company or management, also addressing all issues as soon as possible. Yes, perfect. Great comment. I kind of don't want to say your name just because it reminds me of another word, but thank you. Please hit the like button as you're coming in here. Let's see. So I am well. Thank you for asking. Oh, Partly Cloudy, you will probably be interested in my premiere that's coming up tomorrow night. It's at 11 p.m. Talking car stuff. Kind of like girly car stuff, not like real car stuff. Okay. So this is the last one. I don't want to price myself out when talking compensation. So I will give a low number and hope to negotiate later, is what I should have said in here. So, okay. Here's the thing about this and what I tell people when I'm talking with them. This is not good. First of all, when it comes to compensation, you need to know what you ideally want. Also, you need to know what the market looks like. So you should be educated about what someone with your typical skill set, so your KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities. So for me, knowledge would be bachelor's degree, HR certifications, and some also training and HR certifications additional to that. My skills would be a host of recruiting and HR and training skills, right? And then I could weed those down or narrow those down as much as I need to. And then abilities, like what are some of the natural abilities that I have? Are you a good communicator? So am I able to communicate with people? Am I able to build relationships? Am I able to manage my time effectively? These are things that you want to consider. So someone with that typical background in your location, how much are they making for the job that you're applying to or a similar job, right? So having that knowledge in the back of your head is helpful. Then combining that with what you're really looking to make. And along with this, I say networking is super important for this as well. Knowing what other people in your industry are making just by having conversation. We should be talking about compensation. I don't think this is a hush hush conversation. I think that we should be openly talking about it, especially again with networking, understanding where people are above your level, just below your level, right at your level. That can help you really paint the picture of, okay, here's where I need to be, here's where I am, and is it at a market rate? If not, how do I get to a market rate for the job that I'm in, or do I need to switch jobs, right? How do I get to this level? So thinking about the pay. So having that background information, right? Next, with that, taking that information and going, okay, so I'm here. I, for the right job opportunity, would like to be at this number. So just kind of knowing your limits, like we were talking about earlier with knowing if you want to work hybrid, 100% remote, 100% full time, knowing your limits and what you're willing to be flexible on. So ideally, I want to be at this number. Let's say I want to be at 150,000. But I'm willing to go with the market rate for myself and my market and say I'm open to about 120 to 150,000, right? So that's a big range. So I know that going in before I even have a conversation. I think that's really important. What you don't want to do is go into these conversations and have no idea, no idea what the market is at, no idea what your value is, because how can you effectively have a conversation about your compensation and what you're looking to make in a job, and how do you make an effective decision? So that's number one. The next thing is being open to talking about your compensation. Not just saying, hey, I'm not going to give a number, not just saying, hey, I'm going to give a low number if I'm asked about compensation that I'm expecting, but being flexible, saying that it's negotiable. This is what I'm seeing with the market rate, and this is where my expectation would be somewhere within this. Most recruiters should have a conversation with you, and most recruiters will ask you about your compensation expectations during your first or second call, because they want to understand that, because the last thing that most recruiters would want is to waste someone's time and put them through an interview process when the compensation that they're looking for is something that they can't do, right? So be open to having a conversation. I'm not telling anyone that you have to give a specific number. I actually would say have a range versus a number, because you don't want to lowball yourself either. You want to have an idea based on the market and based on your value. You should know exactly. Now, some other people say never give a number at all and see what they come back to you with. The only reason I am not for that is because you can be in a scenario where you get to this end of the process and then you don't get anything because the offer isn't what you expected, right? So it saves you a little bit of time if you have a range and you're able to have a conversation, and then negotiate at a later date if you find out more information or whatever, or you just want to see if you can get more money. I get that. But I just opt to knowing these specific things because it can help you in the long run. So that's my thought about compensation. It for me, it just really comes down to knowledge, knowing your limits, and being able to have a conversation. Like, don't be super arrogant about things. Like, oh, I'm only willing to take this. Don't be arrogant because you never know. Even if the job you're at right now isn't the best match, there may be another job in a month because companies are hiring like crazy. There may be another job that meets your qualifications when it comes to compensation, and the company may reach out to you and say, "Hey, we got this job. It meets your compensation now. Are you interested?" So those are my thoughts about all of these different topics. I think I covered 5 today, and I wrapped it up with talking about compensation. Yes, the car. Well, we call it a bursting excitement of laughter. I can't. Okay, and you can call it crew for short. Okay, we're gonna call you crew. It's going left. It's going. This combo is going left. I've got 4 minutes. How Pal says, usually I think it will give a high number and I don't want to negotiate. That's my right. So you give a high number, you don't want to negotiate. But here's the thing, if you don't want to negotiate, how do you get more if that's what you're looking for? If you think they can get more to you, how do you negotiate? And negotiating is not just about the salary, it can also be there are other benefits, stock options, vacation time, other things that I've negotiated with people for because some people, the compensation wasn't the thing. Their thing was, hey, I need these, I need more vacation days. I just need it. And it's like, okay, let's work with you. I understand. That's not as often, but sometimes it is that case. Or some people want stock options. People want different things. So it's not always about the sheer compensation number. But you also have to know who you're working with. Like if I won't say there's always a recruiter out there that is going to be transparent with you. I'm pretty transparent as much as I can be with candidates. So I'm not someone that's like trying to lowball people. I'm not someone that's trying to I don't know, just like play a game. I'm just like, hey, let's make everyone happy. Tell me what you're really needing and what you're looking for. Like let's be open and let's talk and let's see if I can get you what you want. So even if it's the case where someone's like looking for more than what we originally thought we were going to move forward with, hey, I'm willing to be the one to be like, hey, can we do this for this person? They're great because of XYZ reason. Can we do it? It seems like it's, equitable based on the market rates. Because again, HR recruiters, we're typically in the loop on compensation as well, to make sure that we're lining up with the market. So if we're hearing certain things from candidates, we take that information as well. Ben says, I also refuse to tell them my current salary. I tell them, don't pay me based off of what I make now. Pay me based off of what the job pays. Now, I am an advocate for that. I just don't think companies are there yet. I am definitely an advocate for, and you see this a lot more in government, but having a job, this is what we're paying everyone across the board for this job. No negotiation. This is just it. Right? That's what I would love to happen, but I don't think it works out 100% that way, just because there are some considerations that companies have with different candidates. So for example, high performers versus low performers. Candidates that have more education versus someone that doesn't. So the knowledge, skills, abilities, right? So going back to the knowledge, skills, abilities, that kind of throws things off sometimes, and also location, because companies are countering in as well location and cost of living into standards. So there's a lot of standards that are already in place when it comes to compensation, which I get. I get it, but I do wish we could just move into just like, here's the pay. Let's move along. No negotiation. Let's move along here and see if you want it or not, right? So there's a lot of conversations happening in regards to compensation, but we try to be as fair as possible when it comes to compensation, and then also looking to meet you where you are. But then two, the other downside of that is, what if you're looking for more, and what if we can't keep up with inflation? So I think that's where it is important for you to understand what the market rates are and what you need individually. Because I put a video out where I'm talking about, in response to Michael Saylor, his thoughts on inflation, and how if you're not making 20% a year, how are you keeping up with inflation? Or if you're staying in the same job each year. So it's a really broad conversation when it comes to pay and paying employees the right way and all of that. Okay, so I didn't read the full comment. Okay, so I tell them, don't pay me based off of what I make now, pay me based off of what the job pays. Wouldn't pay a doctor $15 an hour because his last job was $12 in college. I don't think any company should be just like going off of what you say. So let's say I talk to someone and they're like, oh, I'm only looking for $25,000 and this job pays, I don't know, $40,000. I tell the person like, hey, I can actually get you this much. So we're good. I'm open about that. Companies are not going to, like, good companies are not going to have someone tell them like, oh, I'm just looking for 25 and then actually pay them 25 when the role or the job requirements actually are at a minimum of this number. That should not be happening. I would question a company's policies if they're doing something like that. That's just not good. Like, generally, here's something else about HR, and I'm going a little bit over, but they actually do have compensation teams that should be working to make sure people in a certain job title, let's say, I don't know, let me think, an administrative assistant, right? So let's say an administrative assistant. Generally, they're making 50,000 across the board in that role. Well, they should all be making around the same amount. It shouldn't be that one's making 45 and this one's making 60. There should not be that big of a gap. There are some issues that can happen because of that too for a company. So just know there are processes in place where that should not be happening. It does happen because I talk about unequal pay, especially when it comes to women and men. But for most solid companies, they have folks that are managing that process to make sure it's not happening as much, if it is at all. And then especially if you're starting a new job, that should not be happening, right? If a job starts at 60,000, you're not going to hire someone just because they're saying like, oh, I'm willing to take 40,000. Like, no, this is what the job pays. This is where we start. This is where the job starts. We're going to get you here. When someone undervalues themselves in that way, I don't even put that in my notes. I'm like, oh, we're starting you here. This is what the job pays. I'm sure you're good with that. So I'm always happy to give that sort of good news to folks. And it helps them too, because now they understand more so where they should be looking for the job that they're looking for. Okay, so Edward says our starting pay is a non-negotiable. Thank you. Yes, Edward, thank you. It's just the starting pay. You should not be starting people lower than that. Pal says that's right. We don't work for the glory. We work for the money. Oh my gosh, I can't with you all. I cannot with you. I mean, it's true. I thought negotiating, you start high and work your way down to reasonable. Yes, I do agree with that. I agree. But I feel like you do want to be transparent. So you need to know your limit. Like, here's what I ideally want. What you ideally want is where you would start, or you would have a range on your higher end is how I would go about it, right? And then within that, if let's say the person comes back and they're like, oh no, I don't think we can do that. Then you can ask, okay, well, where are we talking here? What's really the pay for this job? And then you can determine if you actually want to move forward or not. Let's see. Just so you're not saying like a number and then you immediately priced out. I think most recruiters, I say most, most recruiters will have a conversation with you. Or if you say a number, right? Um, I think most will tell you like, hey, that's outside of or that's above the range or above the budget or whatever. Again, especially when it comes to government jobs. They a lot of times they just put the compensation information on their job posting. So it's a little different. Pow pow, perhaps not for glory, but ideally you should enjoy what you're doing career wise. Yes, not just collect a paycheck. There's a saying, find something you love and you never work a day in your life. Yes, I love that. That's so true. Ben is saying being an employee and having employees is arguably immoral as a concept. Why should I spend the precious time in my one and only life to perform labor to enrich someone else more than myself? Well, then be a business owner. Easy. That's easy. And we can talk about that in another video on how I do think. And I do have a video where I talk about this whole concept of slavery and what it means today, modern slavery. Slavery. I can't talk today. I've been talking too much today. Yeah, so that is a good conversation. I've talked about that in a past video. You can search Jessica Hicks Modern Slavery and learn more about that and my thoughts on it. But yes, there's a certain thought process around that, and you know trading your time and energy for money, right? Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, with that, I'm going to close this out. Thank you all for being here. It was a great conversation, and this is my perspective. This is not financial advice. This is not HR advice. This is not recruiting advice. My perspective as a recruiter, having this conversation with you. Okay. All right. So, again, thank you for being here. I will be having an interesting conversation very soon. I'm going to be talking about Jay-Z's album, 444, and the lyrics and doing a breakdown of that, specifically the song Life of OJ. It's not about OJ, not really. It's kind of, but it's more so Jay-Z has some lyrics in there that's very financial in a way. And so I break it down and talk about it. So I'm going to have that conversation coming up. I'm starting Monday or Money Monday. So episode 1 is coming up. I believe that's just going to be for the members. And then I think the second one will be open for everyone. I may open it up maybe a few days after. I don't know. I haven't decided. Or I may just keep it towards the member. It depends on how the conversation goes. But I definitely want to offer it to my members first because it's very new. And yeah, so that's all I got for tonight. There are some additional conversations happening as well coming up. Hopefully you enjoyed the content. And yes, Edward, please do hit that like button. Thank you for that. Hit the like button. And shout out to my members, Edward and Kinga Kill. And I think those are only 2 members we have in here tonight. Yes, so thank you to my members. And Sharky saying, great stream as always, Jess. Thanks for coming, everyone. Thank you. Okay, I hope you all have a great night, and we will talk again very soon. Bye.